This show is sponsored by Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. DENTEN.io. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy from Den 10, you're giving back on a global scale. Hello, all my entrepreneurs and business leaders, and welcome to the Michael Esposito Show, where I interview titans of industry in order to inform, educate, and inspire you to be great. My guests today are founders of the Dance King Method. They are the driving force behind the Dance King Method, with over 23 years of experience transforming relationships. They harness the art of social dancing to help couples connect, communicate effectively, foster trust, and reintroduce fun into their lives. This time-tested form of communication may have been lost in our modern world. Still, it possesses a unique power, breathing life into relationships and rekindling the spark of shared experiences. If you're struggling in your relationship, feel disconnected, unhappy, and maybe even a little bored, it's time to change your rhythm and start moving in sync with your partner again. Please welcome the founders of Dance King Studios and the Dance King Method, April and Adam King.
Hey, Michael, how are you?
Good. Well,
thank you for having us.
Yeah, welcome to the show. This is really, really cool to have you two on. I myself am a bit of a performer, as we've already kind of touched on off camera here. I have a little bit of a background in theater, but I'll put it out there right from the start. I did ballet when I was a little kid.
You know, I wish I had. I didn't start until I was a sophomore in college, so and only did ballet like twice. Very difficult. I can appreciate it on a lot of different levels. How long did you do it?
I think the difficulty with doing ballet was more that I was a boy than it was the difficulty of doing ballet.
Someone called us just a couple weeks ago. A mom called and said, "Do you teach?" Because she didn't realize we teach adults and social dancing. She just saw we were dance school. So she's like, "I'm having a heck of a time trying to find my son wants to do ballet, and it's hard as a boy." So she ran into the same thing.
It was very challenging to be a boy in a room full of girls, not knowing, you know, that would be a dream later on in life, but of course, much different. So I did it for, I want to say, probably 3 years, I'm thinking, because I think it was like from first grade to maybe third grade. And then, you know, then all the masculine, started coming out of like, wait a second, what am I doing wearing a leotard?
Well, I can see that. I mean, it's one of the big misconceptions when folks reach out to us, assuming that, or when we highlight that we teach dance.
Yeah.
Most folks just assume it's ballet or jazz, tap, modern, something like that.
Yeah, all inspiring with what you do, and yeah, certainly understand more of an adult studio, and we're going to get into the relationships and all the different connections and everything. But I'd love to learn more about each of you as individuals, as to your backgrounds and where you came from, and what sparked this desire to dance for you.
Sure.
Would you like to?
Well, I'll follow your lead, ladies first.
Okay.
So,
all right, ladies first. So I didn't grow up dancing. I was a band geek. I played the flute and did the marching band, and I absolutely loved music all growing up, but I never tried dancing. And then when I went off to college, I took a ballroom elective class and fell in love. I liked the people. I liked the connections. It was so much fun. And so that was my freshman year in college. And I ended up connecting with the instructor, and he was like, you have some talent and would love to bring you on as my assistant for the class. So for the rest of my college career, I actually worked as his assistant. And I started working at it's called Danceport, Virginia, where I got to go in and they started doing teacher training with me. But I was a poor, broke college kid and couldn't afford private lessons for ballroom dancing. And so they said, well, if you scrub the floors and you scrub the toilets and you work all of our parties, we'll give you the teacher training for free. And I was like, sign me up. So that's what I did. My whole college career, I worked every party. I was the custodian for the studio, and I got my teacher training for free. And I just, I loved working with the people. I loved the movement. It was I fell in love with the community that it brought people together. It brought people together from all different walks of life, different ages, different backgrounds. It didn't matter. It like just brought humanity together. And I really, really loved it. And so that's how I got started with, teaching dance.
That's a really great opportunity that you had from this instructor bringing you under their wing. I'm interested a little bit too in the mindset that you had of being essentially the custodian in order to learn to be a dance instructor. I bring this question up because so often we hear about the side hustles in order to accomplish our dreams. And so I'm just interested in like, what was your mindset as you were, like you said, scrubbing toilets and doing the things that, that's not why you're there, but you have to do this in order to get to where you're going.
Because I saw what a beautiful opportunity it was, and an opportunity to do something that it was the first time that I felt really excited or passionate about something. And I didn't understand like how or what that looked like in the future. But I knew that this was going to be something that was part of my life. And, I didn't have the money. Like I said, I was a poor college kid, and my parents didn't have the money. So, I didn't come from money. And having this, opportunity to, work for something and having to be a custodian type thing to do that, I was like, I would have done more have the opportunity to do something that was a dream, like a dream job, dream opportunity. So I was very thankful. The whole time I was scrubbing toilets and, mopping floors, it was a space of gratitude. And because that was the way that I could do something that I really loved. So I was always in a space of gratitude.
Yeah, I think the space of gratitude, is tremendous. We sometimes forget about that, right? We look at what we don't have rather than what we have. And, being in that space of gratitude and looking at it as an opportunity, it was all about what you have. I love that. It's so cool. Yeah, because I think that you need to be in a space of gratitude and looking at your opportunities when you're scrubbing toilets, right?
You do. Yes, you do.
We won't linger there too much longer. And what about for you, Adam? How did you get your start in dance?
For me, I started as a college student as well. So I did it was, do you remember those old Gap commercials, where they would they would throw the girls to the left, to the right, throw them up and then between their legs. I think I'd seen that commercial too many times.
Wow.
And decided I want to learn how to swing. So I found a studio at the Jersey Shore one summer. I think it was my junior year. And apparently I had entirely too much fun that summer. So I didn't even finish all of my 10 private lessons, but I was definitely, it got me started. And it taught me what I didn't know. I started with swing, and even then my instructor introduced me to some other styles. And then when I moved to Virginia, I found an opportunity with one of the big chain franchise dance studios. And I taught there for 7 years with Arthur Murray. And that was the beginning. That was back in 2001. So it's been a...
And you're a bit humble, right? Weren't you named one of the top dance instructors for Arthur Murray?
Yes. Yeah. I think that was how I went out that last year. That was back in 2006, and I've been teaching dance my entire adult life. So,
give us a little context on Arthur Murray and its significance in the dance world and this award. And I bring this up not to be boastful for you in any way or try to take away from. Obviously, you're very humble, but also so that people can understand your level of experience.
Sure. I mean, any ballroom studio. So Arthur Murray, Fred Astaire. Think of McDonald's and Burger King. So those are the two
biggest players, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Players. So,
we'll go with Ferrari and Lamborghini. We'll scale you up a little bit.
I like that. I've gotten into cars in the past few years. So teaching with them, it was a great opportunity. We have competitions. They would do competitions essentially every 3 months. So students were always getting ready for that next competition. So that last year, as I was shifting away from ballroom. The goal is to shift away and focus on the social styles. So it was a wonderful experience to get that award for that. That was my last competition. I ended my career for it was a freestyles event, which was a great experience just in terms of the students, and everybody was excited, for the next chapter of my life.
Mm.
But, so ballroom is always, I always look at it as just being competition. So if you go to a ballroom studio, the goal is going to be to go to a competition. So whether some students are interested in that, some students a little bit more reluctant to do competitions, which is, I'd say, most. But we shifted into a social space. So there's a huge community of folks. There's basically a place to go every day of the week for salsa, for tango, and for swing. And so that became the focus of Dance King and what we do with the Dance King method. My favorite is and has always been working with couples. So that's in terms of folks that come out, we get a combination of singles and couples, but couples are the ones that I think are just the most rewarding in terms of you get to see what it's like, with them working together, building the skills of learning, connecting with each other on a deeper level. So that's been amazing.
That's really cool. Yeah. And I'm going to go to my analogy for you. I like the analogy of the Lamborghini and Ferrari. These are Fred Astaire, like you said, Arthur Murray. These are your premier dance studios. And again, to kind of go back to your experience and knowledge in it, a top performer at Arthur Murray. So I think that's, very, very important for everybody here, because it's not just about the award. It's what the work that went into the award, right? Because in order to get there, you had to spend countless hours working, performing, rehearsing. Some of us get to witness that now, and when we watch the behind the scenes of what's it called, the Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever you have aspirations of being on there at all, or?
Oh man, if I got the opportunity, I would do it in a heartbeat.
All right, listen up, Simon. We know he's running those shows. It's interesting, both of you. So you really started more in college, and I would have assumed that it would have been a lot younger. I have my daughters in dance. They're at the dance studios. Of course, it's more ballet, jazz, tap is what they take. Like I said to you, I started in ballet. I think I did ballet and jazz. My sister did it with myself, ballet and jazz. My sister and I then went on to work for a DJ company, and we would do communions and bar mitzvahs and sweet 16s and weddings. We would be the dancers that would come out with a DJ company, and I always enjoyed. I loved it. It was more of like crowd motivating and going out there and grabbing people to swing with them, like you said, and do the hustle and really just have a really, really great time. It was such a great experience. And so when we're talking with the two of you and leading into the couple side, I can see later down the years with me and my wife probably going into a studio like yours to dance together, because of course that's how we met. We met at the bars dancing together, but now with a family and kids and not going to bars anymore, we don't dance as much together, and I kind of miss that. And I want to kind of bring it back to the two of you and speaking about the relationship in dancing, because part of what you talk about is the communication that happens, the relationship building, and for some who may have felt disconnected from their spouse, to reconnect on the floor. And I would love if you could share a little bit about that, because there's the art form, but then there's also what you talk about, the social element.
Sure. Yeah, we've with all the couples that we've worked with over the years, we've been blessed to receive a lot of feedback about how the dancing has impacted their relationship. And it's through that feedback and those testimonials that we realized, wow, this is actually impacting folks. We're not just teaching dance. This is actually impacting lives in a way that's way deeper, that we didn't even realize until we started getting some of this feedback. And I think it has a lot to do with all of the the communication, like 70% of our communication as humans is nonverbal, right? And when you're dancing, the nonverbal communication, things like making eye contact, your proximity to each other, physical touch, the gestures, these are all things that we develop through the dancing. So if you're a couple and you've been married for 20 whatever years, or you've got young kids, whatever stage you're in, life, nobody escapes life, right? We're all, hustle and bustle, and it is life. And it's very easy to, in that space, to disconnect or grow apart from your partner, or not. When we're dating, we're all about that person, and you're in that infatuation stage, and you can't, go 2 seconds without being with your person, right? And then life happens, and we've all experienced it. So all of a sudden, okay, you could go out on a date night, you could go watch a movie, but you're watching the movie, you're not really engaging, right? With the dancing, you're now literally face to face with your partner, and you're making eye contact, right? And you're holding their hands, and now you're smiling, and now you're learning something together. There's a shared activity. You're having to actually figure things out. And then you got to figure out how to communicate, because you've got one person in the lead and the other person who wants to lead but shouldn't be. And,
she just pointed to herself, everyone.
I did point to myself and all the other women out there. It's true. But all of those things, right? If you have good connection, we talk about the way that we hold hands. We talk about the eye contact and the way we look at each other. And those are not just important when you're dancing. Those are like really important off the dance floor just as much. So the dancing actually helps us to practice them. It helps us to apply them and get comfortable with them, because we're actually finding more and more folks are, even with their significant other, are not super comfortable making eye contact. And I don't know if it's because of our digital world and everybody's on their phones all the time.
Being in DC and DC area.
DC area is nuts. But anyway, that's how we've seen things,
Yeah, evolve and grow. And I want to just share for our audio listeners, and of course, you'll be able to check this out on my YouTube channel, Michael Esposito Inc., the video portion of this. But the audio will definitely be out sooner than before the video. While April was speaking, the entire time you were talking and telling us about this, you and Adam are holding hands, you're engaging with each other, you're making eye contact with each other. So it's unique, because I've had other couples on the show, and this is being recorded via Zoom. I've had other couples on the show, and they're usually just looking at the camera. They might glance over at each other when one is talking, which is pretty normal, which we see. But in this case right now, as you were describing all of that, you and Adam were really like locking in eyes while talking to me, while sharing with our audience about the locking in eyes, holding hands. Adam shifted his entire body around to hold your hands, and almost like the two of you were dancing while telling this. So I really, we can really see, I can see it, and I'm hoping our audio listeners, everybody out there right now, can appreciate what's happening right now as we're having this conversation. It's so cool. I agree with you 1,000%. I mean, I'm a person that enjoys a touch. I like being held. I like being put my arms around my wife, my kids, and I like them doing the same for me. And I know that, my wife there's always opposites in relationships, right? And my wife she's one of those, she can walk right by me and no touch or feel. And so I let her know, like, hey, just rub your hands on my back as you walk by me, or, just give me a tap, or, whatever, and do a stop. So without... Right. Anything, right? I'll take the slap on the back of the head. Right. And where I'm going with this is that me sharing that with her is because I'm so self-aware, and because I'm in the self-development space, and I'm very aware to be able to have that open dialogue. But to your point, so often in relationships, if you don't have that open dialogue, if you're not communicating with the other, even if one desires it, which typically one does, the other person's just walking by them. And if you're not forcing the good morning and the kiss good morning and the hug good morning, it just falls by the wayside. And I know that to be true because I know how hard I work on it in my relationship to make sure that we hug and we kiss every morning, not just my wife, but my kids, my parent, like anybody that I love and appreciate, that we have the physical connection. So it is so important. And I think for those who don't have, let's say, the self-development or improvement background, like what I work on every single day, dancing, like you said, just brings that out. It almost forces it to where if we're going to be going to the studio next week, we better be rehearsing at home. And if we're rehearsing at home, guess what we're doing?
Yep. Yeah. And you said the word, you communicate with your wife, right? You let her know, like, you're aware. But you're right, not everybody is. And so all of a sudden the dancing opens up their eyes onto what is actually what they like or what's important, right? And then gives you a space to practice it, in a fun way. Not like, okay, we're just gonna sit here and stare at each other, but like in a fun way. And then you have to learn how the other person, like the way that you feel loved, may be different from the way that your wife receives love, right? The way that I need to be talked to, when we're dancing, we're learning together, is different than what Adam needs. Even this morning, I had a question. He was like, now say your question again, but say it like very directly, because I was kind of
floating.
Right? And he was like, I hear you're asking me a question, but can you say it like, and I had to think about it.
Down the middle.
Like, down the middle. Like, give me 1 second. And I had to rewire to say the same thing, but in a more direct way that he needed so he could receive what I was saying, right? So a lot of our practice and a lot of the things that we've, tried, failed, tried again, and it's a constant, you don't just like all of a sudden wake up and you're like, oh, I've arrived. It's a constant ebb and flow but we communicate it and then the other person listens, right? So that's part of this. And in the dancing, guess what you have to do? You have to be aware of your partner. You have to listen to your partner. So when your partner's saying something, you have to adjust.
Sometimes easier said than done.
Easier said than done. But then you're adjusting. So I had to immediately like, okay, I need to ask this question the way he can receive it. So it was a quick adjustment. But because we work on that, like you were saying, you work on self-development, we do the same thing. But we work on that constantly with each other so we can be better versions of ourselves, but better for each other every day. And guess what we do every day? We dance, right? And these things come up. And so it's, we're no different than any other couple in that way.
That's awesome. And the other thing that you said that I want to highlight too is that it's a shared experience. I really appreciated that as well, in that, going to the movies together and doing these other activities together. You're right. We're standing shoulder to shoulder a lot of the times, hip to hip. We're together, or we're sitting across at a dinner table eating a meal. Eating the meal is more like the shared experience part, which is the eye contact with each other, like you said. And I think that's a big one to note too, the shared experience. I think that's why there's such a big movement with the painting together and the hiking together and all these different experiences for dates. I have a question for both of you, either one of you, I think could take this question. It does have to do with taking the lead, because you did mention something about, sometimes you want to take the lead, and for all your women out there. And this is a conversation that comes up very often in my podcast, especially with female entrepreneurs, in being the only woman in the boardroom, of gender inequality and different things. And so, not that I'm a white knight for it all, but I am always interested in understanding the other perspective. I'm a guy, and when I'm dancing with a partner, which is typically a woman, I'm taking the lead, and I'm definitely thrown off if she tries to take the lead. I'm completely thrown off and don't know what's happening. And so where I'm going with this is, I'm interested in both of your perspectives on, is there a way, is this shifting? Is anything changing? I don't know. Is there a shift in this? Is there a way for a woman to take the lead? How do we balance this out, or is there a desire to balance it out when people dance?
It's a really good question. Do you want to share your thoughts on it, and then I'll share mine?
I mean, for Yeah, I guess I can take the lead on this one.
I love it. He's taking the lead on this one. Well, I don't know. I'm going to argue that since April reaffirmed the question towards you, she took the lead and said, "I'll take it last."
Technically, she gave me the lead, so that's the first rule of Dance King. So the woman has to. Well, it's a trust. It's a conversation, and the conversation's based on a mutual trust. And respect. So she has to respect she has to respect the man initiating and trying to take the lead. And for her, it's an active listening. So following is just being a good listener when all is said and done. So as far as like developing a lead, I mean, you've done the lead and the follow. I mean, so we have the best of both worlds in terms of being instructors. So how would you describe it? And what do you?
I think that in the partnership, like when we dance, there's two roles. You have the lead and you have the follow. The second that, like for example, if Adam has my hand and we're here and he's trying to turn me and I lock my arm, right? He's trying to turn me and I lock in and I stop it. Well, now we're in combat mode, right? So in terms of as a follow, I need to soften, I need to listen, I need to trust, and I need to allow him to move me, allow him to guide me. So the lead in dancing is not a forced thing. He doesn't have my hand. He's not gripping my hand. He's not controlling me. The lead is not about control. And it's interesting because a lot of the gentlemen that come in, a lot of men are uncomfortable learning to dance right off the bat because it's not something we just wake up and do, right? And so it's new and they know they're in the lead role. And so it becomes uncomfortable to have to step into a space to lead somebody when you don't know what you're doing, right? When you yourself have to learn. And the follow has to be in a space of loving encouragement, support, patience, and allow the lead to guide her. And so I don't look at, sometimes the follows will try to take over because we're used to doing, as a woman, we do certain things. We each have certain roles, but I see that in our marriage as well. Like there's certain things like Adam has the role in, there's certain things I take the lead on, and we have our roles and the things that we do together. But in our marriage, I respect him as the head of our home, right? And he respects me. He always asks me, we always talk things out. We work together. It's a team. But at the end of the day, I see him as my husband. I see him as the leader of our home, right? We've got 2 kids. He's the leader of our family, right? And on the dance floor, I respect that position of the leaders. And so even if the leader was new or didn't know, like I tell the ladies all the time, you're not dancing to the music, you're dancing with your partner. So even if he was off, even if, he's learning and you're listening and you're being patient and you're guiding him. I said, because if you don't, then you're taking away his ability to learn and grow and lead. And, as a man, all the men that we've talked to, that's not good for, it's not in a good space. It doesn't put them in a good space. Men want to lead, men want to guide. And so I think it's really important. I respect that position. And so I do my best to just be in that space and be loving and supportive no matter what.
Cool. Yeah, I think, with what you just said there, trust is a major factor in it all. And also, I think the importance of knowing what each other's role is in that moment. And if somebody's leading in a certain dance, then they're leading. And maybe April, maybe more in a certain dance, and maybe you might have to take the lead. And so there's a great understanding and trust between the two of you from what I see. And again, for everybody listening, when April was describing Adam taking her hand, she was showing resistance to that at first, and then showed how it can also flow very easily, which the resistance is obviously not allowing or not trusting the lead. The other thing I want to note, which is, again, so back to my experience of being in ballet when I was a kid and then dropping out of it. I enjoyed ballet. I enjoyed dance to the point where when I worked for the DJ company, it was like a dream job. I absolutely loved it. I mean, I got paid to go out and dance. But I do remember it being a bit, I'll say, emasculating in some sense because of what our society looks at in terms of dance, and that, girls dance, women dance, and men play football, let's say, right? Or men play these masculine sports, right? And we know that that's not necessarily true, but that is really what you're dealing with when you have a man come in and he says, I don't know how to take the lead on a dance, or I don't really want to dance. My wife dragged me here. And a lot of it has to do with that, because at the end of the day, we find that the man really loves it. Men love to dance once they can kind of break out of that shell. And I'll share real quick with my parents, for instance, and I was talking with you guys about this before. My father, growing up, so my parents are married 50 plus years now. And growing up, I remember seeing my father dancing with my mother, but he was never a good dancer. He was just never a good dancer. And my mother was a very good dancer. And they would always, kind of dance. And we kind of teased him and made fun of him for it, as of course, loving children would do to their father. But he grew a love and a passion for dance, and he always wanted to get better at it. So later in life, as they led towards more retirement and we moved out of the house and they had more free time, they joined a dance studio in their area, which is Queens, New York. And they started doing competitive dancing and ballroom dancing and foxtrot and salsa and all the different dances that you actually teach. And they've grown such a passion for it to where they're so committed. They ended up getting a role in the Nutcracker for the first time, a stage performance. And they ended up getting a role for this. And they were down in Florida. They were on vacation at some point during the rehearsals for it. And they were flying back. And they got a flight back, and they got in late, and they had a dance rehearsal that night. They stayed at the studio till like 10 o'clock at night for their dance rehearsal just after flying in, because they knew they were going to have to perform on stage. And so they're so committed to it. But I got to tell you, when you see them now at a party and you see them dance together, to your point, the connection is there on the floor. And they are so in sync to the point where the crowd clears in order to watch them dance. It's like people are dancing with each other, and all of a sudden my parents are dancing, and everybody just starts moving away and watching, and it's just really, really cool to see this transformation happen over the years.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
And then you grew up with that as an example, seeing your parents dancing, just having fun with it, and her letting him take the lead. And a lot of times or from time to time, we'll get gentlemen that come out and they'll just cut loose. It's not that they've ever done lessons. They just assume the lead. They take the lead and they have fun together. But it really is a lost art. And the more guys that get turned on to it in terms of being open to it, especially for those that are in a relationship that are looking to connect, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I mean, it really is an amazing date night.
Yeah. It's so cool. And we're going to get back to dancing, but I think this just relates to what we're talking about in terms of leading. And, in terms of you have the people coming into the studio and learning how to lead and learning how to follow and learning this through dance, but then this also comes out in your entrepreneurial experience of being leaders and what you're looking to create as leaders. And I really, in reading your bio and what you sent in to me on your intake form in terms of leadership, what really struck out to me, and I'd love for you to share more about, was not so much as being leaders to create followers or create a following, but being leaders to create more leaders. And with what we just talked about, it really, I think, paints such a beautiful picture of it, right? Where you have these people coming in, they don't know how to dance, they don't know how to lead, they don't know how to follow, and you're teaching them to be leaders, and then this translates into your entrepreneurial journey. And I'd love if the two of you could share more about this.
Sure. Yeah, someone asked me a couple of weeks ago, a new gentleman, he came in and he goes, he was brand new, never done it before. And this was Jeff. And he said, I bet you get so bored. Yeah, well, it kind of struck me because he had never done, we were dancing bachata, and he never done it. He'd always wanted to. He was really nervous to learn. And he goes, April, you must get so bored of teaching like the basics like this. And I said, au contraire, like I absolutely love getting to be a part of someone's life, especially working, because usually I work with the men on like a private lesson because I'm a follow, right? I'll work with the men and Adam will work with the women when we have just one-on-one lessons like that. With couples, it's different, right? But I said, I really enjoy getting to play a small role in that development of a new leader, right? Because it wasn't just about the dance, there was a confidence thing there, and I think to be a leader, part of leadership is to develop confidence, and all of these things play. And I said, no, I love being a part of different lives in a small way that push them in a direction that all of a sudden they can take the lead in different areas, and they can go out and ask someone to dance. Like they literally, something they never do before, all of a sudden they can take a lead, and then that impacts someone else's life, and it's a trickle effect. So that's just one space where the developing leads. We've started we're launching an internship program for the youth, for high school. This was something that Adam mastermind. Adam is the visionary and the creator of our partnership. And so it's without Adam's vision and drive and like where he sees in that creation, we wouldn't be where we are today. I'm more of the, all right, tell me what you want, let's get her done, right? Right? Systematically help him implement it. So that's how we work. We're not the same in our strengths.
We complement
each other. But part of that leadership and growing new leads is to help take the youth, so high school students, that we have local high school students, and give them an opportunity to experience, photography, videography, the dance, put them in spaces of leadership roles where they have to take the lead on certain things that will help them, give them experience as they're getting ready to, start their journeys outside of graduation. So we're really excited about that because, I don't remember getting any like crazy opportunities like that in high school. And I would have appreciated, having that opportunity to be in that space. And we've just started talking to schools. They're very into it. They're very excited about it. So we're really looking forward to launching that program right now at a local level, helping the youth and giving them the skills to become a leader.
Yeah. And you spoke about confidence. I'm having such a fun time talking with you guys about this because you're sparking so many memories for me, and dance has played such a role in my life. And as you were just talking about the confidence to go out and ask somebody to dance, it like brought me right back to this interview that I had many years ago. And so I'm talking about job interview. I was fresh out of college. I just graduated college, and my parents were like, "You need to get a job. You need to get a job." So I was on the recruiter boards, and I get an interview with what's called Yellow Book, and Yellow Book USA, which is now Haibu, which was selling Yellow Pages. And I made it through the first round. The first local manager liked me and was just like, "You're good," and everything. And then I was going to the second round of interviews, but the other manager was out. She was on her honeymoon. And so I was sent to the vice president of the region. Yeah, of course, right? It's like I'm fresh out of college, and my first interview experience is with the vice president of the entire like tri-state area of New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey for Yellow Book. And at the time, Yellow Book was like, the Google of the world, right? It was like before this is 2005. So anyway, so I go meet with this guy. I remember him, Mike Vukic. And I'm sitting across from him, and he loves everything I'm saying. We're having a really great dialogue, a really great interview. And at the end of it, he goes, Michael, the only issue I see is you're too young. And he goes, how would you deal? You're too young. You don't have enough experience dealing with rejection. And he said, how would you deal with rejection? And at the time, I was single, and I loved dancing, and I loved going to the different bars, the clubs. I was definitely one of those people. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I was at the bars and the clubs. And yes, it was to hang out with friends, and yes, it was to drink, but it was definitely to dance, because I could have done all those things other places. And my friends always knew that. We would hang out before, we'd pregame before, and once we got there, they would lose me. There was many times that I was left at a bar or a club because I was out on the dance floor dancing and they were ready to go home. So anyway, so I say to Mike, I go, Mike, I'm a single guy and I love to dance, and I go out on the dance floor and I go up to every single girl to ask her to dance with me, and I'm going to tell you 9 times out of 10 they all say no, and I've learned how to deal with rejection and go out the next night and go out the next night and dance to the next song and dance to the next song. And you know what? I ended up getting the job because of that. It was wild. But
That's a heck of an answer. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
But that speaks to the confidence that it teaches you of, and the way it translates into real life of, this is something that I enjoy doing and this was a passion. And I know that for me, at least, you see, we bring the genders back in, and women, girls can go out on the dance floor and dance by themselves, dance in a group of girls together. Guys, it's very different. And, of course, barring mosh pits and all the rest, for a guy to go out and just start really feeling the music and dancing on his own, there is this stigma or this feeling, at least that I have, even somebody who's very open about dancing, where I'm like, I kind of need the girl, I kind of need the woman to kind of validate that what I'm doing is not nuts and crazy right here, And so that's why sometimes I'll ask somebody to dance with me, because I'm like, I just don't want to be out here by myself. But that confidence to go out and do that translated, obviously, into the business world and in what you're talking about, into creating leaders, not just through preaching it, but through teaching it. And going back to your mentorship program, oh my goodness, you're teaching these kids something that you're using an art form, and you're teaching them confidence and leadership through this art form. And it's incredible.
Yeah, it is. We're very blessed to, we wake up every day, and, like everybody who's an entrepreneur, everybody knows, like you said, before we started recording, the grind, the struggle is real. Like, it doesn't stop, right? When you own a business and you're doing your thing, like, there's just not a 9 to 5 kind of a thing. But we wake up every morning, and don't get me wrong, there are days where, like,
just want to sleep in, yeah.
I just want to sleep. But we wake up and we're excited to impact more lives and what we can do. We're very blessed. We do something.
And I'm interested in that because you also have like a really great morning routine that you guys do. You guys work till 10 o'clock at night, but you guys have some strengthening exercises from what I saw, and different types of routines that you guys follow. Could you share a little bit more about that? Because again, these routines, these habits that we as entrepreneurs have, they're what carry us through the hard times.
Yeah, one of the things that we found to be very powerful, I mean, one, you got to take care of yourself physically. Right. So some folks, we get here, oh, you're dancers, you dance all day. We teach all day. Right. But it's different. I said, so we still need to take care of ourselves, physically. So we always take an hour to spend, at the gym or whatever way. I do yoga, something.
Lately, I started jujitsu. And so,
yeah, something for us.
Which is important to balance. I mean, we've learned that it's constantly evolving and changing. So we're just like in a relationship, we're constantly working on it. So our routines are even changing as we're basically combining the different parts of our company. So it's a dance studio. What started out as a dance studio that grew into a DJ company that's now also a media company. So combining those
What's
three.
the new routine that you just added? The new thing that you got that you really love?
It's actually, I think I have it here, a little offset. So
So he's going to go offset to grab something real quick. But while he's doing that, you said DJ company. So are you hiring dancers?
we are. We're looking at bringing on DJs now that we've opened up 3 DJ internship positions. So it's interesting how, because years ago I had this concept of connecting or bridging the gap between music and dance. I mean, I've been teaching for 23 years, so creating the DJ part of the company allows us to basically share what we do, just in a different level. But this is the new thing that I started, just writing down my goals for the day. So
little black notebook that he just broke out, and it's got yellow pages I saw on there. Small black notebook, and it's written, and he writes his goals in it. I love that.
So
keep telling us more about it. I just wanted to make sure that people can visualize what you're showing us.
What are you writing in there that's been helpful?
So this is a very new. Up until this point, everything's been on my iPhone and or in Notes. I use an app called Notability, but I saw something. It was a video by Peter McKinnon. If you've ever seen him on YouTube, he's amazing. And one of the things that
Is he a photographer?
Yeah.
He's a photographer.
Yeah, I have seen his work. He does have really cool work.
Yeah, he's amazing. So I followed him for years since we launched our media company. I probably spent about 100 hours watching his videos, but this concept of just going analog and writing things down, being able to cross it out at the end of the day or throughout the day, it's very, very different. But we're constantly trying to change our routine in the morning.
Well, we're tweaking it because as we do different things, we adjust. But one of the things that we found very powerful was to write it out on paper versus on the computer, because like they were saying, the computer can be very distracting, or the phone, and all of a sudden, oh, there's Facebook.
Yeah.
Like it can pull you, or we get dinged. There's, the emails or the texts that start at 6 a.m. And so just having quiet time where we're not even engaging, where we just can be in our heads and think, to write out the goals, like big vision goals, and write out the things that we're going to do each day, when we're going to have that, time to take care of ourselves physically. And then, but having that time to just breathe and think before the chaos, right, has been very important to both of us.
Adam, April mentioned that you're a visionary in the business and in creating a lot. And so we have the studio, you have the method that you teach, and you're doing this mentorship program. I love that, April, you're like the operations and the backbone to it. And we need that. Like you said, I love the balance between you two. We need that. I'm interested on the visionary side on, we're talking about goal setting. We're talking about writing things down and ideas and different thoughts. I'm currently reading a book called Originals by Adam Grant. And in what what he writes about is how original thinkers, original ideas, visionaries, it's not the first idea that makes it. It's so many iterations. It's so many trial and failure, so many different things. And so I'm interested in some of the different ideas that you've had, the failures that you might have had that ended up maybe leading to what the successes that you're seeing today, such as the DJing, the mentorship, the method. I'm interested in a little bit of like the backstory there of some of the trying that you've done.
So I think a lot of where I'm operating from now is based on mistakes from the past. So I think one of the biggest mistakes is putting pen to paper and being organized. In terms of this book, this is what I'm hoping changes, because because there are so many ideas between the three different branches of these three different verticals. Connecting them has been an amazing experience. Ultimately, we're looking at Dance King as a stage, right? So whether you're dancing, performing music, as a DJ, as a artist, and or an influencer, the opportunities that we're creating, because they span so many different arenas, it's important to be able to write that down. And I think that's been my biggest mistake to date, is not having a place where I can just go back through my thoughts from like a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, a few years ago, and see that take shape.
I like the physical element of it too. I used to journal in physical notebooks, and then like yourself, I found some apps and started using those and started journaling in those. I've actually journaled less since that. I still journal in them, but to your point, I don't necessarily go back and reread those, versus when I see an old notebook, I might pick it up and start looking through it and thumbing through it. And there is a different feeling and reaction, and there's doodling. I'm a big doodler. There's doodling on the pages. There's, like you said, crossing off. There's my own way of creating lists, versus the, I guess, polished version that ends up happening when you're doing it in an app or something, because autocorrect comes up and my OCD triggers, and I'm like, all right, I got to fix that. I don't like that red underline while I'm typing. And before you know it, your whole thought is lost in autocorrecting or correcting things versus just writing and feeling it all out. So I love that you've kind of gone back to the notebook, and you're kind of inspiring me to go back to my notebook. It's been a thought in my mind, but I feel like this conversation is inspiring me. To be a little bit more specific here in terms of being the visionary in the business, what ideas maybe did you start working on that you might have crossed off more recently as to getting to the point where you're at today of the DJ and the stage that you just mentioned? I want to hear one of the crazy ideas that you might have had recently.
Crazy idea. Oh my goodness. Where to start?
That's a whole nother conversation there, Michael.
There's a lot of crazy ideas.
All right, buckle up, everybody. Here we go.
So the craziest idea that we've pulled off, that we've pulled off or that we're working on pulling off?
Either one that you want to share. Yeah, what are you working on pulling off? Let's go in there.
So we're looking at, I'm going to have you fill in the blanks, my love. My head is reeling.
The single mingle one?
Well, yes.
This one.
Yeah, that would be.
So here's one of Adam's ideas. He wanted to have a salsa. Now we're talking about couples in this, but we work with a lot of singles as well. So there's two directions, right? One, couples and also how we help singles and make a difference in their lives. So Adam's big idea was he wants a salsa singles mingle program in all 50 states. That was like the vision. That
Love
we
it.
have dancing, in all 50 states. And sometimes when Adam, he's got these dreams and they're big, and he'll share them, but there are a lot of times folks will be like, can't do that, or there's this, like there's a lot of naysayers, right? There's a lot of, oh, that's too hard, you've got this bump, and then they'll immediately see the road bumps or the challenges, right? Where I'm like, okay, how do we, great, yeah, they're there, you're never going to get somewhere without them, but you don't want that to stop you, and people get hindered by it, right? Oh, well, that's going to be too hard, versus like, what's the solution? They focus on the problem, they don't focus on the solution. So what just happened that we're launching on February 29th here locally, the thing that we said was, well, if we can do it locally, if we can make this event like pop locally, and we know the recipe to make it work, then we can hop over, and do one in Maryland, and then we can hop over and do one in West Virginia, and then we can go up to Pennsylvania. We're surrounded by states. We can go up to New York, right? And put people, because we can train folks on how to put together this, salsa singles mingle. We're going to be teaching a salsa class, a beginner salsa class, a beginner bachata class. There's going to be a DJ, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And all the marketing within a couple weeks of us marketing this, we've already sold over half of the tickets that we could, right? And we still have a few more weeks. It has gotten so much excitement. Like everybody, we've got a cool venue, we've got a restaurant. The general manager, he's like, oh my gosh, this is the next best thing. And so it's actually happening, where this was a vision or a dream, and now it's real, and people are buying tickets left and right. So we'll be sold out. And that's super exciting because when this is successful, then we've proven proof of concept, right? Then part of, like you said, part of the leadership thing is we'll be teaching and training somebody else as part of the Dance King and instructor who can go and then take the lead on this one. And then eventually, right, we'll get all 50 states.
Yeah, and I mean it's not so crazy. I mean, what you're talking about is perhaps licensing or franchising this business, and I love this idea. I mean, we think about the word Zumba, right? Everybody knows Zumba as a dance, but Zumba is a business. Zumba started as a business, or Taibo, right? Or all these other ones like P90X. These were all businesses that started somewhere.
I remember that.
Right? They started somewhere. I mean, when you think about P90X, not P90X, what are the ropes that people hold themselves from? I forget the name of those.
TRX. The TRX.
TRX, thank you. Yes, the TRX. That started, he was an Air Force pilot, and it was the parachutes that he was playing with and working out with and seeing, and he starts cutting them up and playing with them and starts developing them. And the next thing you know, they're in every single gym now, and they're part of a program and a class. I mean, with what you're talking about, you see, this is the thing about visionaries that people don't understand. It's exactly what you just said, is that you got to have these crazy harebrained ideas in order to see things through, in order to see them work and give them to the world. And I love that you have this idea. And I love, April, how you support it and go, all right, everybody's the naysayers and they're seeing the problem. Let me find the solution to this. That's what we need. We need more of that. And that's really was the crux of my question there is what's the crazy idea and what are you seeing as the problem and how are we solving it? And that's the thing for all of our listeners here is that, you have an idea, you have a vision, you have something that you want to create. Don't let others stop you from creating it. And there's going to be a ton of failure. There's going to be a ton of people saying, no, you can't do it. Find the people that can help you do it. Find the people that can support you and help you through it, and understand that not every idea is going to work out, and it's not all going to work out the way that you've maybe envisioned. But if you keep trying, and that's where I go back to the book that I'm reading in originals of Warby Parker, of Steve Jobs, of so many others, where if you keep trying and keep reiterating and keep finding the believers around you, you're going to find a solution to get it, like for you guys in all 50 states. And I could certainly see that happening with what we just talked about, because it has happened in your space. So I don't see why it wouldn't, right?
Yeah, and that's the neat thing. I mean, we started out when I met Adam in 2017. We were just a local dance studio, right? And then fast forward, a couple years, we were going out and doing like house parties as dance instructors and stuff like that. But we were always bringing a speaker and always bringing music, So it was like, well, so Adam's vision was, why don't we just go all in, learn how to be DJs, because guess what else? We teach wedding couples all day long. And he goes, we could link, that could be a niche. So one of his ideas
Brilliant.
Was, there's no DJs that are dance instructors, but if we could package it, like we're not only your dance instructors and getting you ready for your first dance, then we can go party it up with you at your wedding, and us, and there's a relationship, because we're big on building connections. And so we've been very blessed. We've got a wedding coming up on the 24th this month. We've been doing lessons with, and we'll be DJing their wedding. So that was one of Adam's vision. And I never DJ'd. You asked me what a controller was, or like an XLR cable. I'm like, right? So he did. He wanted it.
XLR cables.
And you spent months researching it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be a DJ now. And we bought the material and we learned how to do it. Right? There's so many resources these days, and we didn't go to school to become DJs, but there's so many resources. So if you want to do anything, you can find it. Like there's stuff you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for. And so we learn how to DJ, and that's what we do. And then we have the photography and videography that, guess what? For marketing, what are we doing at the dance studio all the time?
Taking pictures.
Walking around with cameras,
Right.
and doing, he's like, well, he had a passion for photography. And he's like, I just want to do, I don't want to just do dance. I'm interested in other things. And that morphed into now, we've got all this photography and studio equipment that we use. And so it's just manifested that way.
And it's brilliant too, because it's going deeper rather than wider, which is a big conversation in business of when we think about building out clients and building out client lists. A lot of times we think about going wide meaning more prospects, more clients, go further, go longer, get more people involved. And that's good. There's definitely some validity to that. But then you can also go deeper. And deeper is, I already have a relationship with you to teach you dance, to work with you on dance, and your wedding is coming up and I'm teaching you your first dance. Deeper is being the DJ for that wedding, being the photographer for that wedding, being the instructor for that. And so you're building out this long-term relationship, and rather than spinning your wheels to find more clients and more customers, you're actually just building a deep relationship with somebody and offering them more. And I think you can attest to this. The more you offer and the high quality, which we know that you offer, the more you offer, then they're just going to sing your praises to others, and the referrals just grow to where you could build deep relationships with more and more just through that one relationship.
Yeah. And I think, and having that personal connection, with we were referred by a lady. We're going to be doing an event with her on the 23rd. A salsa, we'll be teaching salsa at this volunteer appreciation party, right? We're coming in as the instructors. But working with her, she referred us to, she's the event planner for a wedding coming up. And she's like, I know the DJ, and so it starts to network. And I did a Zoom, call with this couple because, I could have just called them on the phone, but now it's personal, right? Now we're one-on-one, and those connections are really important, I believe, and that's what we do at the studio. It's about the community. It's about making people feel comfortable and welcome. And when you do go deeper and you do show that you care and you really make that effort, it goes a long way. And I think one of the things that we're really learning now in that process of going deeper and in the process of just being a couple dance instructors at a studio to now, having to balance all these other things and growing, we realize that it requires a bit more structure, a bit more like, Adam, because his brain is so amazingly like, he just sees everything.
Splintered.
Right.
Adam, you and I relate, so don't worry. Yes, I drive my operations team crazy as well, so don't worry. I get it. But go ahead, continue.
But we need people like you, right? So like I appreciate it but then there's moments where I'm like, right? And that's why having that book that he has now and being able to write everything out, I said, write everything down because everything is more awesome than the next. But then having to learn with taking on more and growing, we've had to figure out, okay, well, we can't do all 500 things at the same time, right? So now we have to create a little bit more of a roadmap, of a plan. That's what's number one, right? He takes the lead. What's most priority, right? And then let's walk through the steps that we need to get it done and check those boxes and move on to the next awesome idea, right? Versus here's all my 10 ideas and I want to do a little bit, but then they don't quite get finished.
Yeah.
And we're kind of left like, and so that's been a big thing that we've had to learn how to work together, even just recently, from a good thing, from a growth thing. We're growing, and so it's presenting new opportunities for us to grow as well.
With everything you just shared, it's something that I'm working through right now. So I'd love everybody that's listening to kind of take in what you just heard there. and I want to hear some feedback from the two of you here. In that, as visionaries, we have a ton of ideas, and this is everything you just said. And so we have a ton of ideas, and we think every single one of them is important. And I work with a coach, and my coach and I were talking about this because I said, in January, I really want to focus in on only certain things, and I don't want to be doing all the 100 different things. And here we are in February, and of course this isn't airing till much later. So all of you listening, yes, enjoy. I hope you're enjoying the spring air. And I said, Merritt, that's my coach's name. I said, how do I focus in on these things? And we talked about driving the ball forward and looking at, okay, we have all of these different plays that we can, the analogy is to sports. And it's looking at it going, okay, we have all these different plays that we're creating and doing, but which one of these are really going to drive the ball forward? Which one of these are going to get us to our goal? And so we started really working on that, and that's helped me a little bit in my decision making. And I'm interested in yours, Adam, and it seems like April, you might be a part of this decision making. How do you make a decision on these 500 ideas? How do you decide? You know what? We're going to focus on DJing. We're going to focus on photography. How do you make that decision from all these great ideas?
That's $1 million question. So it's the one that we've wrestled with by far and away the most, I would say, because for a while, as the ideas have kind of proliferated, it's been harder and harder. I don't know if you'd agree.
Yeah, because we talked about those two tiers of programs we want to develop to help singles, and the program that we feel very strong about in terms of couples. When we were working with one of our coaches, they were like, you don't do both at the same time, right? And one of our coaches encouraged us to go the couples route, because as a couple, right, we can speak to things, all things couple. And so I asked Adam, who's the leader of the team, right? I said, so we made the decision based on the coach's advice to focus on that. And then of that, what are the top priority things, right? Sometimes it's driven by finances, in that any programs that we've invested in terms of growth, if we've invested in it, then the outcome of those that we want to focus on, right? We don't make sure we're not wasting our investment. So that's sometimes kind of
tied to it.
Drives us. Yeah. But I said 2 or 3. And so I said, I want to pick 2 or 3, because it's not that we just have to do one thing. Things can happen at the same time. But I asked Adam to really think about it and to tell me which 3 are those top 3 that he would want to at any given time. Then we took the calendar and he said, okay, well, if it's very easy with business to get distracted and pulled, right? Because you're caught, there's so many things. So I said, but if we can commit to 45 minutes on these top 3 things, right, each day, then we can move the needle forward each day and feel progress. One of the things that was frustrating us was we'd set a goal to get, this is what we want to focus on, but then we would get pulled and we weren't prioritizing it, and it created frustration, stress. And so we had to reevaluate what we were doing and how to restructure. And that's why Adam was saying earlier, like our routine, things are in flux a little bit, because we're trying to figure out how to structure. Adam is a very spontaneous person and doesn't like having his day just like boom, boom, boom structured, right? I don't mind it as much. So we had to figure out, okay, how do we balance that, right? Because I totally tried structuring his whole day. I got in his calendar and I was like, here's what we'll do from 8 to 9. And here's what we'll do from this. And let me tell you how much that did not work.
Yeah, the Jersey in me did not.
I was like,
yeah. Just
That's definitely a personality thing for sure. Very similar, April. I've tried to do that to myself. and Adam. So I feel the same way. I do follow my calendar with appointments, just like you guys do with appointments and scheduled appointments with people. But I do have on my calendar like a time to meditate, a time to write, a time to journal, a time to exercise. And I do not follow that at all because of that spontaneous behavior. So very similar. I want to articulate some of the things you just said because I think this process is very helpful for everybody listening. But I also think for the two of you hearing it back is that one of the first things you did was you asked for outside help. And outside help could be a mentor, a coach, somebody that you respect, somebody maybe in your business world, a colleague, a peer. And I think asking for outside help is really, really important. I think masterminds, you mentioned the idea of a mastermind. Being part of mastermind groups, I'm part of one for my speaking business. And I get so many ideas. I learn so much from them. And you're able to just voice an idea and get some feedback. I think the feedback is really crucial because it's going to validate the idea and it's going to also help accelerate the idea into here's what I tried similar to you and here was where I fell off and maybe here's a suggestion on how you might be able to do it. So I love the outside help from your coach. The next thing I love that you articulated here, which was April, you as kind of the operations and the backbone, and Adam, you as more of the visionary in all of this and having the multiple ideas. April, you were wise enough to say, okay, you're the visionary in this, you're leading the charge. And in that, I'm going to create a bit of a structure, but allow flexibility in that. Give me 2 or 3 of these that you want to work on. And I think that that's so huge because I know for myself, and Adam, I'm sure you could attest to this, when we're put in a corner, we don't like it. So when you say, give me one idea, only go with one of these, all of a sudden we feel like the structure is like, it's not allowing us to be free and creative and to expand. And so we feel trapped. And I love how, April, you were wise enough to say, hey, look, I'm not going to trap you. I'm not going to put you in a corner, but there needs to be some sort of structure to this. And so give me 2 to 3 of your top ideas. And 3, you're right, it's the magic number. The magic number is 3 because outside of that, it becomes a little bit more challenging to do. I was just interviewing somebody yesterday, and we were just talking about goal setting and setting up goals for our days and for our weeks. And when you set more than 3, it does become daunting, whereas 3 is almost manageable and doable. So love that idea. The next part to everything that you just said was, what are the drivers to these priorities? And the drivers could be to build a strong community. The drivers could be to inspire others. But there has to be that financial element to some extent because this is a business. And what drives business but profit? And you need to have profit in order to maximize on your investment. So I think that that's another great part to this process that you have. And then it's the action steps. So what are the action steps to building this all out? And you said to Adam, tell me what you want to work on, and now let's map it out. And you didn't say map it out, but you put it on the calendar, which is mapping it out. So let's map out this process. Let's map out these ideas, and let's fit them into the calendar. Where in the calendar can we fit out 45 minutes a day, or maybe 30 minutes a day, or maybe it's an hour and a half a day, whatever it is we need to drive this forward and see progress. And so I want to take all of that and then also put it in contrast to what you said, Adam, which was when you didn't do that, it led to overwhelm, to stress, to frustration. And we as entrepreneurs all feel that sometimes of when we're feeling the stress, the frustration, a lot of it is because we have so much that we want to do and we're like, there's not enough hours in the day. And April, you bring us back, and all of our operation people, all of our people like you bring us back to, okay, there are enough hours in the day. Let's map it out and we can see it through. And Adam, you just attested to it. By doing that and following that process, it led to so much less stress and frustration. I love that. I felt like it was just like a masterclass coming from the two of you. It was awesome.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it was funny because we've tried different things, and one of them was we created a shared note that we could, just kind of like the things that are getting done. So I thought this is a great idea. We'll do a shared note. So I use this shared note as like a brain dump. Here's all the things, and I just go boom, 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 that all the things. And Adam went in there and he was like,
well, it was a weekly shared note. So things that we would want to do this week, next week, week after, 3 weeks out.
But my 50 things were things that whatever we didn't get to would shift. Anyway, that did not. That was
I would open it up and on my iPhone, no less. And I would just keep scrolling. And I'm like,
yeah,
what on earth? It's going to be a long week.
But you spoke to overwhelm, right? And I
Yeah.
know everybody listening,
So
everybody's
just 8.
experienced this, right? And that's probably the biggest thing that happens with me as more of the operations person. If you pull me too many directions and I get overwhelmed and otherwise, if you just give me a few, right? Not only is he happy because like what you said, it doesn't lock him into one thing, right? And a few for me is a happy place because I don't feel like there's so many directions and it's hard to map out everything.
Hmm.
But if we have three, like you said, it's a happy number. We both feel like we can manage that. And I still give him that flexibility because every day we look at our calendars. It's not like it has to be from 9 to 10 every day, but just when are we going to block out? Because our days are different, our schedules are different each day. So let you just tell me what time works well for us tomorrow. I'll work around that. And then he has all the spontaneity and flexibility that he still desires. But we've gotten the needle driving forward on the top three things. So whatever else happens in the day,
That's it.
like
And,
it's okay.
in I've learned that for myself is that, by being spontaneous, I'm spontaneous. I mean, I remember always being called a free spirit, spontaneous, and I would think that I don't need any I don't want structure. What I've learned is that there's more freedom in structure, and it's been so true in my life. Adam, one of the things that help drive a lot of these ideas forward outside of obviously the operations and everything we just listed there is something that you live by, which is always take action. And I'd love if you could share a little bit more about how you just dive into an idea. And I'll kind of set you up a little bit in that, the dance studio. You just signed a 3-year lease. You had no idea that this was going to work, but you dove into it. And I'm interested in that mindset behind there.
So years ago, April and I did we did this training, and it showed you what your essentially learning model was. And so I've learned from that experience that I'm action, knowledge, April's blueprint, and nurture.
The acronym is BANK, BANK. It's called BANK code. You could look it up. But yes, go ahead.
So I've always been this way. I think of something and usually I'll try it. But writing things down has actually kind of shifted my thoughts towards being able to, like we talked about, focusing on 2 or 3 things. But the biggest thing was actually connecting the different parts of what we do, between the dancing, the music, and the media.
What was your mindset on when you opened the studio in the very beginning? You left Arthur Murray. You had been doing the Reston thing for a bit, and you just ripped the Band-Aid and just went for it.
Sure. I mean, that was probably one of the scariest things I've ever done, but it was just one foot in front of the other, to be honest.
Why did you want to do it? What was your driving, what were you excited about opening the studio for?
Well, being able to work with more folks, being able to create something very unique. When I was teaching ballroom, I enjoyed the experience. I enjoyed the different styles. But going out into the community, going out to, whether it was a salsa bar or any place with live music, I always kept coming back to the fact that it was those social styles that I really wanted to share with folks the most. So salsa, tango, and swing. So that was the concept for Dance King, and that was 13 years ago. And we've never looked back.
Yeah. April, I'm gonna hire you as my assistant interviewer. I love it. You were able to draw that out of Adam. Yeah, and it's so true on how couples complement each other. Obviously, April, you are the spokesperson to some extent for the business and help draw so much out of Adam. And I really love this give and take, this dance that you two are having on the other end here. It's actually really, really cool to witness and be a part of. And I appreciate it from both of you. Something else I want to mention that April wrote for you, Adam, in your intake form, that I think is part of all of this is that you don't let fear stop you. And that's the big thing for you is you don't let fear stop you. And that's huge, right? Because so many of us, we're all afraid, right? And you're afraid, I'm afraid, we're all afraid. but it's about not letting it stop us and just going forward. And so I love that you were able to share some of that.
That's something that I really admire about Adam, because there are so many times where I know I would have gotten stuck because I would have been scared, right? And I didn't understand the how, right? I didn't have all the information, like you say, mapped out. I didn't understand exactly how it was going to happen. And so a lot of times I equate it to, jumping out of the airplane without a chute. Like right? It's just, there was no, you're just going, you're just doing it, right? And we don't have to have it all figured out. And so since being together with Adam, it's taught me to breathe, just to be able to be more spontaneous, because that's a skill. I think that's like to not be so attached to the outcome, to not let the fear of the unknown or get stuck in having to know how it was all going to work out. There is a leap of faith there, right? But to not get stuck in the how. And I know that I get stuck in the how. My very system planning brain,
your blueprint,
would get kind of stuck, where he was just like, the heck with it, we're going. That's the mindset he took with the he didn't want to do ballroom anymore. He wanted to give folks an opportunity to teach dance in a way that was fun and exciting, and couples could connect and sing, not in a strict ballroom setting, competition, but a social setting. And there's not a lot out there in that way. So he had a very unique vision, and a friend of his, was like, hey, there's a spot, for lease. And he was just like, let's go, because that's who he is. Like, he's just this go. And, with knowing that he was just going to make it work. You slept at the studio. People have come into our lives that have helped us along the way, but there was no way to know how this was going to pan out, that we would meet back in 5 years later. There was no way to know. So sometimes I think, and you've taught me this, that you just have to sometimes take a leap of faith and believe in yourself and believe in your vision, that you have everything you need, and that the how will present itself.
Yeah. I mean, we could end right now. That was awesome. That was awesome. That was really, really great. I mean, it's so true. It's so true. Focusing on the how is what gets us stuck, and allowing it to just kind of play out and believing in it. I have a off-topic question for you, Adam, and it is just more of a theory that I have for visionaries like us. When you go somewhere, if someone gives you a place and they say, hey, meet me at such and such, and you don't know it, it's a new place, it's new or something, and do you map it out before you go, or do you just kind of hop in the car and start getting ready to go, and you're like, oh wait, I need to know where I'm going? I'm just curious.
So yeah, I'll usually just wing it. It's
ding ding ding. I had a feeling, right? Go ahead.
Well, now I just say, hey Siri, and
right. But when you do that, do you do it when you get in the car, or do you do it a day before when you learned about it? When do you map it out?
Usually in the moment.
Yep.
So I mean, in the moment, I'll check to see if it's if I don't know what town it's in.
Yeah. If it's not, just to give yourself some time. Yep. That's so funny. And my little follow up to that is, what about the weather? Do you ever check the weather to see what you should be wearing?
I do now because I've been riding my motorcycle more.
Okay.
So yeah. But for the most part, I would kind of wing it in terms of getting out and figure it out.
And what about you, April? Same two questions.
I will, the morning up, wherever I am, I'll pull
map
it
it
up on GPS if I'm going somebody, and map it and see, just because I can prepare how long it's going to take.
Yeah, of course, because you have to prepare. And what about weather?
The weather, if I'm going to be somewhere outside, I know the day before. I've mapped out what I'm going to wear and how. Yes.
The day before, yeah. That's so.
Be inside, not as much, but outside, 100%. Because I do not like cold weather, and
that makes sense. That's fine. I asked that off-topic question only because of what we're kind of talking about, the visionary and the operations and all of that, and it kind of just, it's something that I've been meaning to ask, and it's it just came up because you guys are in the self-development space and professional development space too. And so we hear so many people on stage, they'll say, you don't just hop in the car and turn on your GPS. And I'm like, wait, no, yes, I do. Yes, I do. like I don't, there's very, very rare, like the only times I'll really look into it is like I have someone coming on and he's down in DC and he invited me to an event that he's doing. And I was like, oh, I'm in. Yeah, I'll go to it. Yeah. When is it? Give me the date. Send me the address. And, because to me, DC is 3 hours away from me. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I'm like, it's a drive. And then to come to find out it's 10 hours. I was like, all right, well, now this is a weekend. But, so I had to look into that. But if someone is in my local area and they're just like, yeah, meet me in so-and-so. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll meet you there. Because I'm like, I don't know. It's like within 45 minutes. I'm like, I'll figure it out when I get in the car. But I think it has to do with our personalities and how we operate in that. I don't really need to know how I'm going to get there or how I'm going to get dressed or what I'm going to do. If I don't really need to know it, I'll figure it out in the moment. And then we have the operation side, which is kind of like, I need to know how we're going to get there and how I'm going to dress. And so I feel like there's like a correlation there. So,
yeah,
right.
Totally. But I think to speak to that as well, I think it's really important for couples and relationships that like that training that we did, it was like a personality thing. But
yeah.
That was one of the best things that Adam and I did for our relationship because it helped me to understand him because we're so different.
Mm-hmm.
And this way I could actually learn, like not to see him, it's not a negative, it's not a ding, there's nothing wrong with him, but it's who he is. And to not try to change him, right? The mission here is not to change each other. The mission is instead to, appreciate each other's strengths and work to each other's strengths. And then there's adjustments that need to be made. Or I had to learn to be more spontaneous, right? Like if we're going, so when we travel, guess what? I let him take the lead. I'm like, I don't need to know anything. Just you drive.
Oh, wow.
It's been amazing.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he does everything. And I just sit back and let him.
That's a fun exercise.
It's nice though, because for one time, like I don't need to be. I actually enjoy the break, right? But we've operated this way, and so when we go out to eat, like he knows what he wants, and I just let him take the lead. But even in our personal and our professional lives, it's understanding each other. We reference our personalities, so we have to adjust to each other and those needs, and it's not criticizing. It's not putting anybody down. It's appreciating the other person for those strengths, recognizing that you're not your own, and then all of a sudden it puts a different, like a positive spin. I've seen couples criticize. Well, you didn't do it like this. You didn't do it like you're not doing it like this is how I would do it. Well, that's not the way of the world, right? It doesn't have to be. And so I think it's important. I think that's just important kind of in general for a healthy relationship. Yeah.
And it speaks to collaboration. I think that, when you talk, what you're talking about is it's complementing each other. And I think to your point of the knowing each other's personalities, when you then know that this is this person's strength, you could lean on that. And when you know it's their weakness and they know it's their weakness, you could then compensate for that. And that's huge. And I think just relating back to dancing, it's the same, right? It's, maybe you're better at this one dance and let me take the lead, or maybe I'm better and let me take the lead. And so you have this really great dance that happens between you. I like the way that you articulated that. We share so many similarities as couples and as people because, again, my wife and I very similar. She's operations. She needs to know the day or two ahead of time. She does all the planning. And so I'm going to take a note out of your book and see if maybe I can plan a trip for us and see if she'll let me take the lead. I have a feeling she might enjoy it, like you just said. One of the other things that we talked about, or that I learned about the two of you, is some of the things that you learned through COVID, but when we talk about COVID, it's because it's what shut down most of the world. And, again, you have a studio, you have people coming in and being shut down. That was really, tremendous impact to your business. And Of course, grateful for the PPP loans that you were able to receive and all that. But I want to just go further than that into what it taught you for today. And I'm going to just highlight some of the things that you mentioned, and you could elaborate on any one of these. But I want to make sure, because the 6 things that you put in here and in your intake form, I think is so important for people to hear. And it relates to not just what you went through in terms of COVID and what you learned from it, but it just relates to going through difficult times and some of the things you could lean on. And so the first thing you put in is the importance of teamwork. And we're talking about that right now, collaboration, the importance of resilience and getting back up, and importance in faith and positive mindset, and thankfulness and gratitude. I mean, both of those things you just talked about back when you were talking about being a custodian, essentially. The importance of community and the people that surround you. Thinking outside of the box. We're talking about it right now, being these outside thinkers. And then never let setbacks stop you. And I just think that all 6 of those things that you articulated in there as lessons from coming out of COVID apply to today. And pick any one of those that you would just kind of like to expand on for us today in that learning of getting over difficult situations.
I mean, for me, the biggest lesson and takeaway from that was trusting my partner. Right? So, really leaning on my partner, and so it really, I credit it to you. I mean, getting through that moment in time. I mean, because because I was so connected to it, I was emotional. And so April was able to help balance me out. And it was our partnership, leaning into that really made the difference.
Well, we had to, at a time where it was uncool to be social, as a social studio, we were shut down. And so in order to, it's a community base of people, membership base, right? And we had to figure out how to stay connected, because at the time we didn't know how long this was going to last. Nobody knew anything. And so we decided to completely change our home into a studio space. And much like we're sitting here with you, we created a virtual opportunity for folks to learn to dance. And so we reached out to all of our couples. And Adam and I, instead of, usually when we teach lessons, I'm on a lesson, he's on a lesson. So we have 2 simultaneous lessons going on. But at that time, we came together because this way would let you lack in us being able to guide, or, you could see both of us. And so everything became visual. And so we're like, well, this is a good way to stay connected, right? So we charged very reduced amounts, and then just did right here. We created a studio and we worked virtually with folks. A space of gratitude, because our community of folks were so amazing. Many of them kept their memberships. We thought everybody would cancel their membership. And we only dropped maybe 1 or 2 of all of the memberships that we had. They kept supporting us. And that's incredible, because most people, you'd have just canceled, right? So that bond that we have with our Dance King family was so strong that they supported us through it, which was one of the reasons we survived. Then we went outside the box and we started dancing on the rooftop of a parking garage, just to be able to mingle. Everybody was masked up. We were all 20 feet apart from each other, but we were all together outside. We brought our Bluetooth speakers. We threw some music on, and we did some solo work, right? And so we've got tons of video and photos of us, just everyone apart, but everyone was so happy to just move and see each other. And then as things shifted, we were still on the rooftop. We were able to still mask and hold hands, and eventually things progressed back to normal. But we did a for couples. We partnered up with a place, a historical place here in Leesburg, Oatlands. And in their garden, we threw up our speakers and we created an event where couples could be together. Because obviously, if you live together, you can be together. And so we set couples out. We got a florist, partnered up with a florist. Every couple got a rose. and we set the roses 20 feet apart. And everyone was outside in a garden, and we led a swing and foxtrot class outside in this beautiful backdrop of a garden. And the Olin's sweetheart date night. We did that for all through COVID for a couple years, and it was incredibly successful. So it was a date night. Couples got outside. It was safe, right? Every couples brought their own food, so there was no exchange. We just, but it was so much fun. And so it was really just, we took
amazing memories,
great opportunity, great partnerships. We couples that are at the studio now found out about us, through that. And what Adam said, that's when our relationship changed was in COVID. Because before I was an instructor, but I wasn't helping operate the business. And when that went down, we lost two of our other instructors that used to be part of the team. They left. And it became, it's sink or swim, and we're going to have to work together. And the company had been Adam's all this time. And so he was very attached to it, and never trusted anybody else to release some of that control. And I had to earn it. And it was through COVID that I earned his trust, and that our relationship strengthened, and now here we are.
I'm interested in, do you guys know the Piano Guys? Have you ever followed the Piano Guys?
I've listened to their music.
Have you ever seen them on YouTube?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm referencing here, right? So I just came up with this harebrained idea for you guys. Here, sorry, April. Adam, you ready? You and me, right? It's just everybody. Right. It's just me and Adam here. April's out. I'm just kidding. But April, I'm so sorry. But this is what the Piano Guys. They'll like hoist these beautiful pianos and all their instruments to like the Grand Canyon and these like amazing like locations, outdoor locations. And when you were just talking about during COVID how you were dancing with this garden in the backdrop, I was just like, oh my goodness, like wouldn't it be so cool if you did like more like dance outings and all this like the Piano Guys do. So sorry about that, April. Go live with that for the next hour after we're done rapping here.
I love it. I love it.
I knew you would. Trust has been the theme in this conversation of just, whether we're talking about dancing with your partner, whether we're talking about dancing by yourself, trusting in yourself and believing in yourself, and then trusting as a business owner, trusting the process, trusting that things will work out, trusting that you will figure it out, and then of course trusting each other. And you just articulated that in how important that trust of each other is. I really, really am so appreciative for the time that we've been spending together and learning so much about your journey and seeing how that trust has blossomed into not just one business, but multiple businesses and going really deep with your customers. And of course, that's all led by some of the beliefs that you hold dear to you and some of the mantras that you carry with you. And we've talked about some of them. I'm remiss to bring up, of course, Mahatma Gandhi as an inspirational person for you guys, and some of his teachings and some of his works. But I want to just bring up what you listed as your mantra, and I love the way that you wrote this out for me. And so I'm going to read this back to you and just elaborate on how you live through how these mantras help inspire you every single day. And it's: watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. Love that. Share a little bit about that mantra with us as to how it means to you, what it means to you.
So that's something that I've always, it's a quote that has always stuck with me. And so in terms of developing as a partnership, because April and I, we're married and we are the business. We are Dance King, so we spend all of our time together. So it's important. It's an important reminder for me to be careful, with the way that I communicate, and it's something that I have to work on, and something that we talk about all the time, because it's our thoughts, and even when we're stressed or tired, hangry, impatient. Sometimes those are times when we communicate things that we don't want to communicate, that we don't, or that doesn't show the partnership the way it should be. And so it's something that I always kind of guard against, but it's something that I have to work on more and more. Because as the stress of building this vision, as it creates more poles, it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to lose sight of the way that we communicate best. And so it's one of the things that we want to get on the wall. We've actually ordered something, so we're going to have it here in the house when we come in. So
to have a daily reminder, and we use that mantra to communicate, like, hey, that, like, watch your words, right? So something, if either I say something or Adam says something that's a little like edgy or snippy because we're hangry or we're frustrated about something, they say, watch your words. Just kind of, because it's a gentle way of saying, hey, not it, right? And so it's a you don't have to say much that's communicated there. Hey, love, remember, watch your words, because it's a respectful way of, if he says something to me that I felt was not respectful, I know he didn't mean it. I know it's something's happening. He's frustrated about something that's coming out. But at the same time, I think it's very important that we communicate, hey, that I don't want to be like, let's guard against that, because, I've experienced in my own past, when I didn't guard against that, it kept happening. And it's like I allowed it. I allowed, people to talk to me certain ways. And so now we're both very careful about our words and our thoughts. Well, if we have nothing but negative thoughts, if we're stuck, our mindset is power, right? You heard it, 80-20 rule, 80% mindset, 20% action, right? That's a self-development thing that we're learning right now. And realize, well, if you have limiting beliefs or you have negative beliefs, or if you're, even during like the COVID thing, you're like, oh, end of the world, we're done, we're going to fail, the studio's closed, what are we going to do? And you're just in this like brain dump of negativity. Well, then, what do you think's going to happen? Then you're so stuck in that, your thoughts that are negative, that you don't work on the problem or the solution to the problem, right? So watching your thoughts. And so if we're talking to each other and we're sharing things, then we can say, okay, now we're negative. We're being, because this happens to everybody, right? So it's easy to get stuck in a negative space. So it's in that mantra, like, okay, let's watch our thoughts. I can see us, there's a shift, right? Let's pull out, right? And how are we going to shift to a positive mindset? We do this doesn't serve us. So that mantra just helps as a daily reminder of, because life is not perfect. We're not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, we have it all figured out. We don't.
Yeah.
But we're constantly, Adam has lived his life by that, and he works on that. We're always working on it. Nobody ever, the constant.
Yeah.
Journey.
Yeah.
And it helps.
And it helps. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great reminder. I like how you said that too, in that it's, just by saying the one thing of watch your words, we know where it's going. We know that the words turn into the actions, turn into the character, turn into the destiny. And so just by that one thing, it's such a great way of reminding each other what are we doing and why are we doing it. And I think it works in the positive sense too, of watch your words or see your words, right? Because they can turn into something really wonderful. And I think both of you have talked so much about that of being able to see a thought and actually make it come true. And you used the word manifest earlier in the show today, and it's so true. It's our thoughts, everything in our life, everything around us, everything that we see and have and hold. We're a thought. We're once a thought. It was another person's thought that created it. It was our thought to have it or to do it. And these were thoughts. So we see this to be true, and it could work positively, it could work negatively. And which choice do you want? And I love the way that both of you have shared that with us. Of course, we're going to have in the show notes all of your contact information, the way people can reach out to you. But for all our audio listeners out there, if you could just share your handles where people can see some probably cool videos of you guys dancing, of the studio. What are your handles on social? How can people connect with you? How can people learn more about all the amazing things that the Dance King is doing?
Yeah, absolutely. The handle for Facebook, you want us to tell you now, like live?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, please. Whoever's listening, they can go ahead and pull over and Google it.
So our website is dancekingstudios.com. And then our Facebook is at Dance King Studios.
Dance King Studios.
At Dance King Studios.
Yeah, so you'll find everything. And I saw on your website, you have all of your links to all of your social on there too. So dancekingstudios.com. Check them out. You guys are doing some amazing things. I can't wait to see more of what the amazing things you're doing. And then everybody, I'm going to invite you all to watch this episode on YouTube, but also I'm going to invite you, Adam and April, to join me on my on my LinkedIn live show. And so everybody, you can go back now to my LinkedIn page or to their LinkedIn page and find this episode. What we'll do is I'd love to invite both of you on my LinkedIn live, and so that you could promote this awesome event that you guys are putting on in the next couple of weeks. I'd love for you to promote it there and share with my audience and with your audience live what's going on there. And so everybody, stay tuned to learn the success about how this is going to hit 50 states, because I know it will. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to be on your show, and we've really enjoyed the experience. You've been amazing.
Yeah, it's been cool. Cool,
Thank
guys.
you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Michael Esposito Show. For show notes, video clips, and more episodes, go to michaelespositoinc.com/podcast. Thank you again to our sponsor, Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. That's DENTEN.io. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy from Den 10, you're giving back on a global scale. This episode was produced by Uncle Mike at the iHeart Studios in Poughkeepsie. Special thanks to Lara Rodrian for the opportunity and my team at Michael Esposito Inc.